It is 2 in the morning on a dimly lit hospital ward. A junior doctor is prescribing a routine antibiotic, but as they click to finalize the order, a critical allergy warning pops up on the screen. The doctor immediately clicks override without reading a single word of the alert. Hours later, the patient goes into severe anaphylactic shock. The hospital administration reacts predictably. They pull the doctor into a windowless office, issue a formal reprimand for negligence, and mandate retraining on attention to detail. By punishing the individual, hospital leadership gets to declare the problem solved. But all they have actually done is guarantee that the exact same error will happen again tomorrow with somebody else. This chart shows why the disciplinary approach fails. Individual clinical error rates look low, but the systemic alert override rate across the hospital frequently exceeds 90%. This identifies a bad barrel problem, a systemic environment making correct action nearly impossible for anyone. In hospital leadership, there is a hard truth about these incidents. You can blame a human, or you can actually learn from a failure. You cannot do both. The data points to a highly specific, entirely predictable culprit driving these massive override statistics: alert fatigue. Alert fatigue is a condition where individuals become desensitized to safety warnings after being exposed to an overwhelming number of frequent unhelpful alarms. As long as administrators treat this psychological response as a personal character flaw, they remain completely blind to the malfunctioning technology and broken procedures actually putting patients in danger. Step into the shoes of a junior doctor walking onto a typical medical ward. Before they sit at a computer, their senses are already saturated. First, there is the physical hardware. Pagers are constantly vibrating in their pockets with routine updates from the lab. Second, their phones are lighting up with urgent WhatsApp messages from nurses and pharmacists trying to coordinate care. Third, senior staff are shouting overlapping verbal orders down the hallway about transferring their patients to different units. It is entirely within this chaotic, high-stakes environment that the electronic health record system decides to throw a dozen poorly designed pop-up alerts onto the screen. The vast majority of these prompts are unhelpful. The system might block a doctor's screen with a severe drug interaction warning for 2 medications the patient has already been taking safely at home for 5 years. Alert fatigue represents a quantifiable breakdown in human information processing. Throwing badly coded pop-ups at a physician who is already holding 6 critical pieces of information in their head instantly exceeds the biological limits of their working memory. This environment itself guarantees the medical error. This flowchart breaks down exactly how that cognitive failure happens, starting with selection. The doctor's brain is so overloaded that it entirely tunes out the visual stimulus of the alert, treating it as background noise before it even registers. If the alert does manage to grab their attention, they hit the second stage, perception. Because 95% of previous alerts were clinically irrelevant, the doctor relies on a mental shortcut, instantly clicking cancel out of pure habit without reading the text. But even if they stop to read it, they face the final stage, comprehension. The alert is written in dense, unformatted jargon that requires massive cognitive effort to decipher, actively draining their energy and driving them straight toward burnout. This is compounded by an organizational flaw known as diffusion of responsibility. Diffusion of responsibility is a psychological phenomenon where individuals in a group are less likely to take action, assuming someone else will do it. When a digital warning is blasted to an entire medical team, every single doctor assumes another colleague is going to handle it. These habitual override rates function as a necessary survival mechanism, allowing the brain to bypass the friction of a saturated technological environment. Fixing this requires stepping off the hospital floor and entering the boardroom. Executives have to stop managing symptoms and start implementing a systems-based action plan to repair the digital environment. The first directive is to ruthlessly audit the software and eradicate the boy who cried wolf effect. If an alert does not require immediate critical action, it must be permanently removed from the system. Administrators often keep low-value pop-ups active under the false belief that warning the staff about everything increases the hospital's legal liability protection. In reality, it actively generates danger by completely burning out the very clinicians tasked with keeping patients safe. The second directive is to align the technology with actual clinical workflows. Alerts should trigger when a doctor is actively making a relevant decision, not on a generic time delay or whenever they simply open a patient chart. A perfectly accurate warning becomes a dangerous distraction if it interrupts a doctor at a moment when they physically cannot act on it. This organizational diagram illustrates the third directive, targeting. By assigning alerts cleanly to the exact specialist responsible, hospitals eliminate the diffusion of responsibility. Targeted routing rebuilds their trust in the digital ecosystem, ensuring they actually read the information they receive. This brings us back to the tragedy of the administrative blame game. Every time leadership reprimands a junior doctor for high override rates, they guarantee the broken software driving those mistakes will never be evaluated. Healthcare leaders have a clear mandate. They must redesign the clinical environment to actively support human cognition rather than fighting against it. When administrators stop using individuals as scapegoats for statistical trends, they can finally fix the machine. And that is how you actually save lives.